Ah yes, 1827. The death of Sardanapal. Alors, so you know the story. Sardanapal is a despot. Right? It's very important, this idea that he's a despot. The opposite of, I mean, the anti-liberal figure. I told you about the invention of the liberal public sphere. Here, it is just the opposite. And it is about the death of a despot. And this despot commits suicide in a way. What you see is he's lying on his bed and somebody puts fire. Everything will burn, the palace, everything. He will die, but all his mistress are killed, the horse is killed, everybody is killed. So with them, I mean, he will die, he's committing suicide, but everybody, everything in the palace, everything around him will disappear with them. So it's a kind of huge holocaust. Okay. So it's a painting about destruction and self-destruction. And it's also a painting about sexual ambiguity, because this man is not an heroic figure. He is a despot, but a defeated despot, and not an heroic figure. And he is at the edge of death. So this painting, which is very constructed, very well composed, from many sketches and many studies, with many sketches and many studies, is dealing with destruction. But also you have it in the painting if you start to look at it carefully. You see in the painting all these elements which were very disturbing for the people at that time. Look, for example, the way the black woman appears in the center of the painting at the bottom of the bed, for example. I mean, you have many strange details like that. If you get into the painting, and you can spend 2 hours circulating into the painting, you will see that everything is broken in a way. I mean, it's a kind of fragile assemblage. So the composition is both very strong, but also with very strong lines, this huge oblique. The opposition between light and shadow. I mean, everything is very strong in a way, but also very fragile, which is normal considering what is happening, considering the story. Okay? So the painting is also about that, about this contradiction, this tension between destruction and construction and destruction, and even self-destruction. Okay. What is interesting is that after its first presentation in 1827, this painting disappeared. It was and Delacroix re-exhibited it years later, 20 years later. And at that time, when it was re-exhibited, Baudelaire, excuse me, saw it. And he wrote a beautiful text about this kind of comeback of this painting which was coming back from the past. Passé composé. This painting was a beautiful passé composé. And a monumental passé composé. And as you probably know, the major figure in contemporary art at that time for Baudelaire was Delacroix. And for Baudelaire, Delacroix was the major artist because he was an artist dealing with imagination, not dealing only with un savoir-faire, but dealing with this ability, capacity, spiritual, mental capacity, which is imagination. He was the artist embodying the faculty, this major faculty, which is imagination. This idea of imagination in Baudelaire is partially coming from German philosophy, but I don't develop this. And when Baudelaire mentions Delacroix, he says that a tableau like this one is built as a world. And that, what does it mean that it is built as a world? It means that it is totally autonomous, an autonomous totality, a world. Right? It makes it has the complexity also of a world. Huh? This is the idea of complexity. Never forget, oh yes, I tell you something very, very important. The model of nature is still valid today. For me, the model of nature can be absolutely reactualized today. And I think even it's interesting to do it. It's very protective against many models which are more problematic. Why? Because it is a model of complexity. There is nothing more complex than nature. We shall never, human beings will never invent something more complex than nature. Maybe at the end, before being destroyed, humanity will invent something as complex as nature, and it will be the end. So, when Baudelaire says the world, he says not nature, because the reference of Baudelaire is not nature, it's imagination. But he points a complexity. And for him, a painting, a tableau made as a world, it's a tableau which presents the complexity of a world, but which presents also layers. Because a world is not just a span of a space, it's not just what is the word, étendue, the Cartesian notion of étendue. L'étendue. L'étendue cartésienne. How do you say this in English? Hein? No, no, l'étendue, the space, no, no, not open field. Open field, it's le champ ouvert. No, no, l'étendue cartésienne. Okay, let's forget. Maybe there is no word. Anyway. Expansion. Expansion sounds good. Expansion sounds good. Expansion sounds good. It sounds good, expansion. Okay, so a world is not just an expansion. I mean, why do I say this? Because le mot, this word, étendu, which we translate now by extension, is the key word of the Cartesian philosophy. So the philosophy of which invented this kind of objectivity of the relationship of the man towards the world. So, but a world, if you think in terms of imagination and in terms of time and not only of space, l'étendue is a spatial notion. If you think not only in terms of space, not only in terms of objectivity, but in terms of time and subjectivity. A world has a depth. It's thick. It's made of layers. It's made of moments. And what Baudelaire says, and it's so beautiful, is that in this painting, you see the layers of time. So you have the composition, which is finished, but in this finished composition, you see also all the process and the different successive periods where the painting was elaborated. So you enter not only this space there, you enter the mind of the artist. You get into the mind of the artist. And that's really what you get in front of this painting, because it's completely mental. It's a neurotic painting at the end. It's totally neurotic. And Jeffol, for example, wrote a beautiful comment of this text talking about the psychologization psychologisation, that's an impossible word, of the heroic, the reduction of heroicism to a neurotic structure, very intimate neurotic structure. And this is also what is a world for Baudelaire. Okay? Alors, later on, if we have time, no, we shall do it. We shall consider the text of Baudelaire, because I want you to read them, even if we don't read them, we don't comment them word after word. But before I show you a few examples of very interesting things, which are no, but I mean, you have to imagine. I mean, you have to understand something. The fantastic complexity of art at this moment, at this time. It is fantastic. It's why it's so useful for you, artists, young artists, to study this period, because you learn what is complexity, what is real complexity. You know, it's not this kind of, it's not Jeff Koons, you see what I mean? It's not this kind of neo-pop, which is so boring. Okay. It's not bad, you see, because sometimes Koons is okay. It's not. He knows how to do things. I saw his first. It's a parenthesis. I saw his very first exhibition in New York. It was quite attractive, I must say. I thought, oh, this guy is interesting. But then it became so simple. That's the problem. Okay. So, Delacroix. Before Delacroix, there is another painter who is, from my point of view, even more interesting than Delacroix. I think he's the most interesting painter of that time. For me, the two most interesting artists of late 18th century and early 20th century are one British, William Blake, and one French, Theodore Géricault. These are the two great figures. No, excuse me. The third one, I'm crazy. Even more important than these two, Goya. The real inventor of modern art is Goya. He is Spanish, not British and French. He is the real inventor of modern art. When you want to really understand modern art, go back to Goya. Don't consider that it starts with Manet. It's a big mistake. Big mistake. It starts with Goya. But you have also Blake and Géricault. If you consider these three figures, you get really what the start of modern art, how it started. And when I tell you this, I'm totally against the canon of modern art, which is starting with Manet and so on. I think it starts much earlier. Okay. So, behind this painting and all these things I've just said. You have this one. What is that? It is a study. But it is a study which makes a tableau. It's a study of fragments of body, of corpse, which make a tableau. Voilà. That's really subversion. There was there, but to understand this subversion, you must know what I told you before. You must know the story of the tableau and composition. Otherwise, you don't get really the strength of it. It was amazing to do a study made of fragments of corpses and transform these fragments of corpses into a tableau, composition. And if you look at these fragments, they make love. It's not just about death, it's about death and love. And it's about the way that life is stronger than death, in a way. And life is stronger than death in the field of painting, thanks to the work of the tableau, thanks to the composition, thanks to the possibility of transfiguring the fragments into elements of composition. Okay? And then if you start to look at it like that, it becomes really strong. And once more, you realize that the problem of form, artistic form, is also a problem of a philosophical problem. And they're always related. It's why this play with the categories is also a way of addressing a fundamental problem, which is the relationship between life and desire with death. And you see, a problem of form, all this discussion about study, composition, fragment, element, and so on. This is formal, but it has a philosophical, anthropological content. It's not very satisfying, this word. Yes, significance would be better. Significance is better. Okay. So, you got the point? Alors, that's another example of a study which doesn't make a tableau. Voilà, you see the difference? By the same artist, de la Croix, le radeau de la Méduse, enfin, you know, the radeau de la Méduse. Okay. Ouais. The raft of Medusa. The raft of Medusa. It's a study for this painting. But this is really a study, you see. There, the study is not transformed in a tableau. Here, yes. You see the difference. You see it at once. And, well. So here, it's a study. And there, it's a new study composition, you know. Study composition, study tableau. Tableau as a study or study composition, you know. Because, I mean, you have to understand that. As soon as you make all these distinctions, the good artist, he plays with the distinction. Being an artist is not following the distinction, he's playing with it, with them, excuse me. And then you have also this painting, which is, of course, terrifying. It's about terror. This idea of terror is important. Why? Because it is the repulsion. Terror is about repulsing the viewer. I was telling you that the viewer makes the tableau. But how does he do if he's repulsed? Voilà. That's a very interesting point. That's what Jericho is dealing with the ambivalence of the eye. We shall go back to that. There is in the tableau something which is horrifying, something which makes the pleasure of looking almost impossible. Something which contradicts even the possibility of looking. Huh? Something which is, in a way, against the drive of looking. I use the word drive as a translation of pulsion, the psychoanalytic term pulsion, drive, the drive of looking. Okay? So this was my, I think, second point. Ah oui, last thing. Alors, of course, such a painting should be related to les natures mortes, the still lifes of Goya with parts of animals, with the difference that Jericho doesn't represent parts of animals, but parts of human beings. It's slightly different. But in some etchings by Goya, you have exactly the same kind of horrifying representations. Alors, last point. When Delacroix mentioned, because you have to know that Jericho died in 24. Yes, 24.
He was 24.
No, in 24, 1824.
He was about 27, wasn't
And he was 33. Very young. You imagine that the history of painting would have been different. There are two people like this who died so early that Jericho in the 19th century and Boccioni in 20th century, and both from falling from a horse. It's funny, huh? Enfin, bon, not very funny, but it's strange. Let's put it like that. Anyway, Jericho dies in 1924, which is a very important date because it is also the year when the painting by Constable, Le Char à Foin, the hay wagon, voilà, is exhibited in Paris. And it's very important because everybody makes the connection between Jericho and Constable. So, you have to imagine that Jericho dies. Delacroix is very sad, of course, but in a way, he's not happy, but I mean, he has he can become the major painter. I mean, a place is empty. There is an empty place for him. And it's very interesting because when he speaks about these paintings, because of course you can imagine that these paintings were very important, you know what he says? He says that they are wonderful because they are about nothing. That the content is nothing, and that they are pure morceaux de peinture. That's a very interesting point. That a tableau about nothing can be a morceau de peinture when, in fact, it's showing morceau de corps. And this idea of the morceau de peinture, this is something we never think about, but it's very interesting. Because, in a way, there is no place in the système des beaux-arts, in the hierarchy, for the morceau, the piece. No, but it's really morceau. I mean, piece is okay, but morceau is something else. It's obscene. I mean, a morceau is a morceau. Huh? It's not a piece. A piece can be a nice thing. Morceau is just a morceau. Bon. Then the morceau become, you know, you said a good morceau for a good piece of meat, you know, but it's really, you know, precisely you are back to the meat, you know, not the flesh, the meat. Huh? Meat is not flesh. Huh? Well, you make the differences. Huh? And it's a piece of meat, a morceau. Huh? Bon. And you have a strange analogy there between the morceau of a body and the morceau de peinture. There is no place for the morceau in this système des beaux-arts, you know, composition, sketch, study. Morceau, nothing. So it's something else, you know. It's on the side, you know. It's out of the system. It's a kind of, you know, ligne de fuite, you know, from the system. And it's very interesting that Géricault is precisely the one who opened that ligne de fuite, who traced this way out of the system. And articulating the morceau of painting with the morceau de corps, you know? If you remember what I told you about the study of nature and the importance of anatomy in the system built upon the study of nature. Alors, why is it so important? Because if you look at painting as it is produced today, most of the best paintings are just morceaux. You have very few compositions, but you have a lot of morceaux. For example, think of Gerhard Richter. There is a show we just opened. You will check. There are the only compositions are the photographs, the painted photographs. Otherwise, they are mostly, with few exceptions, morceaux de peinture. And if you look at all the followers of Richter, wow, a lot, they are dealing with morceaux de peinture. And now think about some British painters. Start to think about Freud, for example. What is he dealing with? Alors, you see, what I mean is, it could be interesting to go back to composition from the morceau. And it would be very, if I was a young painter, it's really what I would try to do. Rethinking the composition starting from the morceau. But really rethinking the composition, trying to find the way to go back in a way to the composition, or to go to the composition again. Huh? To reopen the possibility of the composition, but starting from the morceau, because the morceau is really what was produced at this moment. One more point, a quotation by Delacroix about Géricault. Very important because it will come back in another point. Delacroix says, in French, tout est égal, l'intérêt n'est pas plus dans la tête que dans les draperies ou le pied. tout est égal, l'intérêt n'est pas plus dans la tête que dans les draperies ou le pied. You understand? Everything is equal. The interest is not more in the head than in the drapery, and or the foot. Huh? Everything is equal. This is a very important point. It will come back. It is the basis of the all over. The all over, probably you have been told a lot about the idea of the all over, I suppose. Oh, yeah. I mean, the idea coming from Clement Greenberg and so on. Okay, but it starts there. It starts there. So it starts on the side of the morceau de peinture as a composition, as a tableau.
Did Delacroix say that about
Jericho? About Jericho. About these works. It's a key point. Because if you followed my point, Jericho transforms a study into a tableau, but also un morceau de peinture into a tableau. And everything is equal in this very strange combination of the morceau de peinture with the tableau. In this very strange redefinition of the tableau as a morceau de peinture. It's exactly the, excuse me, it is exactly the all over. Because what is the all over about? It is about everything is equal and the tableau is open. The tableau is a piece of painting, open. As a field, the difference is the idea of field, of course. In the all over. Huh? It's not anymore the morceau, it is a field. But the field is open as much as a morceau is open. A morceau is open, look, a morceau is open to everything. I mean, it's not even a part of the body anymore. It's not organic. It is anti-organic, of course. But there is composition. But there is a tableau. But, you see, you imagine now the amazing subversion of the categories. Such a subversion makes its sense only, 80 years later with psychoanalysis, when Freud will address the ambivalence of desire and will, even later, no, 100 years later, with the second topic, not the first one, the second topic, when Freud addressed the problem of the moi, of the ich and es, le moi et le ça. Hein? So, what is the second topic about? About the death drive, la pulsion de mort. Desire and death. That there can be a desire of death. Not a desire of death, excuse me. That's something else. That's a drive, a death drive. So now you understand also the very strong connection between these paintings by Jericho and La Mort de Sardanapale by Delacroix, and you understand better how Delacroix, making La Mort de Sardanapale, in a way transformed these elements, integrate these elements in the grandiose fiction of the historic painting.